The noise was deafening. Nyayo Stadium overflowing, trembling, alive with emotion. Former President Uhuru Kenyatta stood at the podium, eulogy in hand, but the crowd will not let him speak.
Mama Odinga, Rosemary.
For nearly a full minute, chants of Uhuru, Uhuru roared like thunder across the stands. In that moment, at Raila Odinga's state funeral, Kenya was not just mourning, it was remembering and perhaps forgiving. October 17th, 2025, a date already etched in Kenya's collective memory, the state funeral of Raila Amolo Odinga, the man who embodied resistance, reconciliation, and relentless hope at Nyayo Stadium. The air was thick with history.
Long live the crown. Joey! Joey! Joey!
President William Ruto presided over the ceremony, flanked by African statesmen like Somalia's Hassan Sheikh Mohamud and former Tanzania President Jakaya Kikwete. On the front row sat Kenya's power mosaic, Deputy President Kithure Kindiki, Kalonzo Musyoka, Martha Karua, and of course Uhuru Kenyatta, the man who had once opposed Raila Odinga, then embraced him. But the crowd was not there for politics, they were there for memory. For the man who had spent 6 decades chasing Kenya's democratic dream, the casket, draped in the Kenyan flag, had arrived earlier than morning from Parliament buildings where thousands had queued through the night for a final glimpse. Soldiers marched in perfect sync, a lone bugle pierced the morning air. In the stands, veterans of the struggle wiped silent tears. Leaders took turns paying tribute. President Ruto struck a tone of respect, even reconciliation, recalling Raila as a man who disagreed fiercely but loved Kenya deeply.
One of the Honorable Raila Odinga's favorite songs was Jamaica, Farewell by Harry Belafonte, a melody of longing and gentle sorrow. He often broke into a dance and with a big smile sang, round the Bay of Mexico, where the sun shines daily on the mountaintop.
Kalonzo Musyoka spoke of loyalty when Odinga of family and loss, recounting her father's final moments in India, holding his hand as his heart failed.
Fellow mourners, I was with him in India when he took his last breath. He died in my arms, but he did not die like people have been saying on social media. Every day he was waking up and walking, and every day he would do 1 round. The next day he would push 2 rounds. That morning he pushed to 5 rounds. He died strong, when with dignity and with pride. And you must be proud of that. You all must also walk with your heads held high and walk strong and proud that he left as a gentleman.
But it was Uhuru Kenyatta's turn that changed everything. As Uhuru stepped forward, a wave of recognition swept through the crowd. This was not just a former president. This was Raila's political twin flame, the man with whom he had once made the 2018 handshake that pulled Kenya back from the brink. When Uhuru began, the cheers erupted, cameras shook, even security personnel stood still. For nearly a minute, he could not speak, only smile, hands raised, humbled by the sheer force of affection. It was a rare, unguarded moment in Kenyan politics, the nation applause rising above its divisions.
Odinga, Rosemary,
When the noise finally settled, Uhuru delivered one of the most emotionally balanced speeches of his career, mixing humor, philosophy, and principle in perfect measure. He began lightheartedly.
Unajua, saa ingine baada ya kazi tukiwa tulia kidogo hapo nini, tunapewa kakitu kidogo hapo.
He said, pausing mischievously before adding,
Kwani munacheka, mimi kakitu kidogo nasema uji na chai. Hey.
The stadium erupted in laughter, a brief relief in a sea of mourning, but then he turned inward. He spoke of Raila's fascination with mortality, how he often wondered what his father Jaramogi Oginga Odinga might say if they met again. He connected that curiosity to Kenya's own journey, from Jomo Kenyatta's independence to Odinga's unfinished mission of equality.
Wakati tulikuwa tunapiga gumzo, saa ingine tulikuwa tunajiuliza, unajua jamani, wale wazee ambao wameenda, wakina Jaramogi, wakina Jomo, wakina Nkrumah, wakina Mwalimu Nyerere, jameni, unafikirianga wakiketi wanaongeanga mambo gani? Mimi nilikuwa nasema unajua wanaongea siasa kama sisi, wanatuangalia tu na mambo hii yetu ya upuzi hapa, wanatuchekelea. Anasema lakini unajua, I'm very keen kujua. Sasa ndugu yangu, umeenda mbele yangu, sasa tayari najua mnajiongeleshana huko, na sio ati niko na haraka ya kuja kuwafikia, lakini.
And finally, he delivered the line that cut through the grief like a blade.
Tukiwa tunaaga baba yetu Raila Amolo Odinga, nataka pia tujiape ya kwamba hatutakubali kama Wakenya haki za kibinadamu, demokrasia na mambo yale yote ambayo Raila alitetea, hatutakubali arudi nyuma.
It was not just a tribute, it was a political call to arms. By the time Uhuru stepped down, the tone of the entire event had shifted. It was no longer just about farewell, it was about continuation. Raila's journey from detention cells to the Prime Minister's office was suddenly framed not as the end, but as a relay, a torch passed on. The symbolism was unmistakable. Uhuru's embrace of Raila's ideals was also a challenge to Kenya's current leadership, a reminder that the spirit of the handshake still matters, that national healing is never complete. As Ruto led the crowd in singing Jamaican Farewell, Raila's favorite song, there was a sense of poetic irony. Kenya's political rivals were now united by melody, if not ideology. Outside, the crowd sang along, some through tears. Raila's body will rest in Bondo beside his mother Mary Odhiambo Odinga, but his legacy, as Uhuru reminded everyone, will rest in the conscience of a nation still wrestling with its own democracy. That day at Nyayo, Kenya did not bury a man, it buried an era, and maybe, just maybe, began another. Newsroom, Maisha TV, Reader, Kering Chibet.